Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 410th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have John Schumacher. He's probably a new dad right now. When we did this just a couple weeks ago, they were close. But John is a webinar expert. He's done over 300 webinars. He once did a live webinar for an entire year. His clients have sold over $10 million. And this guy is one of the good guys. He's legit. You'll see from his style, very laid back, very much no nonsense, just do what works. He calls it his get to the point funnel. So you're in for a treat. Coming up next is Jack Siney. Good dude. I was in Baton Rouge a couple weeks ago, and has nothing to do with this, although he and I got to demo his software after my interview with him. And very powerful software for generating, for finding opportunities, for finding quotes, deals to sell to the government fast. And we get into the misnomers, why we don't go after the government. And I have feared all of them, even though I worked for the government in the Air Force for 4 years the academy, 5 years active duty. So he dispelled a lot of those. And but like I said, as I was in Baton Rouge, he demoed it to me with his one of his operations folks, and it's powerful software. But he's got a great story. This is his second successful business, which is cool. He admits that he had one that was bad, and we get into that. All right. So a couple good episodes coming up. I think I've mentioned this recently, but I've not mentioned it very much, and that is my initial process assessment. People always call up, hey, they want to pick my brain or whatever, and it just doesn't cut it. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help you, right? You can't just pick your brain. It's like going to the doctor. Hey, can you just look in my eyes real quick? And that'll suffice for my physical. No. Takes more than that. But doing these deep dives, kind of like John's get to the point funnel, my IPA, initial process assessment, is a get to the bottom get to the point funnel. I can't even read my own notes. Get to the point. So with the initial process assessment, it takes, usually it's the client's delay. It's the questions that I ask that you have to do the research on, and I'll do it with you, but you got to dig in and peel things, peeling that onion. But it's super affordable. I don't do hourly coaching and consulting. So this is the most affordable way to have me look at your business. What's happening in your sales, in your marketing, in your recruiting, in your prospecting, your marketing, your taglines, your USPs, your MVPs, the KPIs, the ROIs, and help you get on the right track. So check that out at thesaleswhisper.com/IPA. You can sign up. You can order right there. You'll get an immediate email with a checklist, things to go through. I ask for logins to your various platforms, and we schedule time, and we start digging in. All right? So avail yourself of that. That'll be your get-to-the-point profit producer. Maybe I'll rename it to that. All right? saleswhisper.com/IPA. Now let's bring on John. John Schumacher, all the way from Reno with a baby on the way. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
Hey, Wes. How you doing? Yep, no baby yet. On the way soon, though. Have a crying baby with all these interviews moving forward, just to annoy my podcast interviewers.
Oh, yeah. I just make it look easy, man. What, you have 7 kids and a dog and a wife and a guy, building on your house in the background. It's all good.
You got Everybody
it all, man. Rolls with it. So what is this, man? Webinar specialist. Improve your webinar with a webinar coach. What the heck? What makes you an expert on webinars, huh?
Yeah, so good question. So Google says I'm an expert, that's for sure. So if you Google my name or Google webinar expert or consultant, I'm at the top of that heap. Nice. But yeah, I started doing them about four and a half years ago. So I'm not as grizzled as some of the old school IMers out there, but I've done over 300 webinars. had some pretty good sales rates, especially early on. I was selling a course on webinars and those kind of things, and did one live webinar for an entire year in a row at one point, and just kind of kept studying, kept going with it. And yeah, at this point, the people I've helped either in my programs or through coaching consulting have done over 10 million bucks through their webinars and stuff like that. So I've seen behind the hood on a lot of webinars, a lot of online businesses, and yeah, so that's my claim to fame.
So you did a live webinar, so weekly, I assume?
Yeah, I was doing that for a year. Mm-hmm.
Now, how have you seen things change? Because I'm experimenting with them as well, and I've done live. It seems like I'm getting better response on the replay, letting people have a chance. I did kind of a split test, hey, register for the weekly webinar or get it on demand right now. People would register and not show up, but it seems like they're consuming the on demand. So is there a change, or does it depend on the audience?
Yeah, it depends a little bit on the warmth of the audience, obviously, because back when I was running the weekly lives, this was over 4 years ago now. So the atmosphere was different than it is today. So I'm seeing live webinars still work really well for like joint ventures. If you're doing like a webinar or a presentation with a partner where there's a little more warmth to the audience or to your own audience. But as far as like running cold ads and stuff like that at webinars, the show up rates have plummeted pretty hard on that. So we're actually seeing, in many cases, better results with an evergreen webinar to colder traffic sources just because of the improved show up rate and the on-demand ability for that funnel. And then it's just about optimizing the other pieces. So I think still live webinars are a good tool. It can be a great teaching tool, a great rapport building tool, especially for your own audience or with a partner. But it is getting tougher just to ask random people that are flipping through their Facebook or whatever to come and spend an hour with you and buy your stuff.
Right. And on these evergreens, is it, I mean, I've been in it a long time. So I'll register for somebody's stuff and they're like, the next webinar starting in 15 minutes. And I'm like, oh, I'm so lucky. It's just, what are the odds that they're ready to start right now? It's like, come on, man. But I mean, do people still fall for that, or is it just better, hey, register now and just get it on demand?
Yeah, a lot of people, especially it depends on your niche a little bit, right? Some markets are certainly more savvy than others, and I'm a believer in not trying to, for your first impression, deceive people and stuff like that. So you are seeing, like, particularly for what I call like book a call webinar funnels, where the goal is to book a phone conversation at the end if you're selling a coaching or consulting or a service. Just to have that ready on demand, shorter version of the webinar. So it could be any like an 18 to 20 minute sort of video presentation that's on demand. And at the end of that, there's an opportunity to book a call to speak with somebody. So yeah, I am in favor, especially for those kind of service providers who are just looking to book more quality phone conversations, having a shorter version of that webinar that's just available to people. Because you and I both know that people, the best clients, especially in the service business, they have more money than time, right? And they don't want you to dick around their time. And they're more than happy if they see value in something to take action in a relatively quick manner. So we're seeing a lot of that is just, condensing it down. I call them get to the point funnels a lot more, especially for higher end services.
Right. And so are people sitting through those quicker ones? And do you tell them, hey, I got a 15-minute video, watch this. And then if you want to talk, at the end, you can book a time. You just lay it all out up front.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain flow to creating like a VSL or a video, it depends. It could be a case study, it could be a shorter, like problem solution call to action format, it kind of just depends a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you can be pretty upfront with who this is for. And at the end, very straightforward about how the entire process. And, I think particularly for B2B markets, higher end stuff, I think, just being upfront with people and share, having a clear value proposition, obviously that makes marketing and sales a lot easier for your offerings, and just being upfront with that and just getting on the phone with the right people.
So yeah, it's, should somebody have like a single thing, like, hey, here's my offer, everybody comes through this, or if you have varied offers, should you have the get to the point funnel for each one, or should you kind of bring them in like, hey, almost like a mission statement, sort of culture, like, hey, here's who we help, blah, blah, blah. If you think we might be a fit, now let's go. Or, you know what I'm saying? It's like one kind of overarching presentation that then brings them through, or do separate ones.
Again, I think it depends if you're looking to sell volume, like low ticket, like $100 stuff. I mean, that's a different looking funnel completely. I have a client right now that we're working on that. It's a completely different game than, let's say, if you're selling $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 to $50,000 plus services. That's a completely different funnel. So I think what you're asking is, do you have one funnel for all of that?
Well, maybe not even one, but like in my own business, I mean, I sell software, I do consulting, I've got a private group, so varied things. They're all different, right? So somebody looking to buy software versus somebody looking for consulting on the software, that's different than a W-2 employee salesperson looking to join the 30-day sales growth community.
Right.
But I could have like one overarching, like, hey, here's who I am. Here's what makes me tick. Here's kind of some of the things I do. If you think we might be a fit, fill this out and we'll talk. Or just say, boom, you're in for software, watch this video. Oh, you're thinking about sales training, watch this video.
Yeah, the way I kind of divide up funnels, like webinar funnels, is the goal to get people to a call, or is the goal to just sell something on autopilot? Because those are two different funnels. I prefer working with the higher end one. Let's just book calls, and people will watch your presentation. They'll click a button. They'll fill out a questionnaire. They'll book a call on your calendar. They'll be taken to some pre-call content to start building your authority and pre-framing the situation. There's all these pieces in place before they get to that first call. So if that's what you mean, that's a different funnel process than like, I'm going to sell this $200 course or $200 software on autopilot without talking to anybody. That's a different funnel.
And I mean, are they buying like a lower dollar thing just off of an ad going to a video? I mean, yeah. I can't think of much that I've personally bought. I mean, usually I know them, like I've seen them around, and then I finally buy versus, oh, look at this ad. Oh, that's very interesting. Wow, I'll buy that.
Yeah. Well, sure. It depends on the market a little bit too. Like I was consulting on a webinar not too long ago that was selling to freelancers. So these are like people that either wanted to become a freelancer or they wanted to, transition away from their job, or, kind of get beginners, so to speak. And they were selling a $1,000 info course on the webinar, and they were able to get it up pretty good. They were spending about $3,000 a day in ads, and they were getting about a 2x ROAS on that. So not huge ROAS, but then the trick is, what else can you sell behind that? So I still think for businesses that want to kind of grow and scale and reach a lot of people, you can still use that type of funnel for particularly list building and just, getting visible and those kind of things. And your goal would be to liquidate the advertising costs, cover your costs, maybe make a little bit of profit on the front end of that, and then make your money on the back end through doing regular, like quarterly promotions to your mailing list, or just, affiliates, or whatever your model might be in your philosophy. But yeah, they still have their place. I think, especially if you want to start growing a list or something, it's just in most cases, there's always a few unicorn cases. Like I worked with one gal, she was a unicorn case. And now she sells like $3 million a year with these courses, doing these webinars to her audience and list and all this kind of stuff. But in most cases, it's not as easy as they make it sound to set up an auto webinar and just throw up a course and I'm going to make my millions and all this kind of stuff. It's in most of the case, it's not going to be the case.
Right. So for our listeners, you mentioned ROAS. Can you define that?
Return on ad spend.
All right.
So that's if you put $1 into, let's say, Facebook, it spits out $2.
Right.
That kind of thing.
So how would somebody know? I like to pick on a local chiropractor as my example. Because I want to play devil's advocate, right? And like, could my buddy grow his chiropractic business with a webinar? And if so, like, would he drive traffic maybe to a video series or even like a PDF? Hey, here's 10 stretches you can do at home to avoid surgery or to, get off of pain pills. And then within that, maybe drive them to a webinar or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, I have to look at the situation, and they're obviously selling through phone conversations, right? So, I mean, it could be a short webinar that they book a call from. It may just be maybe even simpler than that too. It could just be like a Google ad or something that's very intent based that leads to like a free something or other at their clinic. It could be a free massage, or it could be whatever else they have at their clinic just to get people in the door, if they know their lifetime value numbers. So, I mean, they could use a webinar, in that case. I would probably recommend a smaller kind of video version of it, a recorded version of it. But you may not even need that either in that case. It could just be like have a really clear, simple offer and a very good entry point for new customers to come into your world. And if you know your lifetime value, then you're good.
Right. And can we kind of use the phrases interchangeably, like a video sales letter versus a webinar? Do they overlap a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, the wording is there's a little bit of an overlap there. A lot of times you can just use a recorded video as like an auto webinar these days, right? And just put it on a page. So there's, VSLs are somewhat making their comeback in some cases for booking calls and stuff like that, shorter versions of it. So yeah, I use it somewhat interchangeably. Obviously, if you're doing a live presentation to a group, I would call that a webinar. But as far as like the automated versions of it, yeah, I mean, a video very similar to a recorded presentation, and obviously just kind of depends a little bit on the software you're using too. There are certain webinar, quote unquote, softwares that are built for like webinar funnels versus just like putting a video on a landing page or a sales page or something like that.
Right. How much nudging does someone need to get them on, right? Like, let's say you are doing a scheduled webinar. It's weekly, twice a month. Are you seeing, like you said, it has declined?
Sure.
Is it 25%, 30% show rate, 20%?
Yeah, it depends a bit on the context of their, I guess, attraction to you or their relationship with you. Like if
everybody loves me. I mean, I get 100%, but 100%. I don't want to make everybody feel bad.
You got 3 people that sign up and they all come.
Yes. One's my mom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, overall show up rates for live webinars are declining, mainly because of just attention, because, in certain industries, people are just kind of sick of them in some cases because there's been a lot of BS on them. But having said that, if you have a warm list of people who want to hear from you and you have a compelling topic, people will still show up. So it depends a little bit. I actually had a client, we did a webinar last month. They're a company though, big company, and they were using it more for training instead of selling. They had like a 70% show up rate. That was like the highest I think I've seen forever. I used to get over 50% with my email list. This was probably 3 years ago. Now it's probably more like 35%. So I would say at least a third probably is your average. To colder traffic, it can be even lower, like 20%. So you might get 1 in 5 or something from an ad that actually come, even if you do a good job with the reminders and trying to build anticipation and all that kind of stuff.
But what about actual conversion rates though? Because I'm guilty of it. I'll sign up for something. I am interested. If it's not like a top priority, I'm probably not going to make it. But if they follow up, usually I end up buying. So, let's say only 25%, 20% show up. Like down the road, if this is a weekly or twice a month sort of deal, do they eventually show up? Like if 100 people register, let's say 20 show up for the first one, can you expect another 20% maybe over the next month to make one of the follow-up webinars or to watch the replay?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, it depends. But the reason what you're talking about is the reason why follow-up is so important with webinars. I would say webinars are not an event, they're a campaign, right? And you should look at them that way because, I've had campaigns that I thought weren't going to do well on the webinar, but they actually did really well in the follow-up to make it a success. So, I mean, you might get 75% of your sales in the follow-up sometimes, the emails and the retargeting ads or however big you want to go off the back of these webinars, because a lot of people aren't attending. And so you want to have a strong follow-up. You want to have like a PDF version, like a condensed version of your webinar in the follow-up, possibly a smaller version of the video, kind of get to, kind of a condensed version that people can watch in the follow-up. So the follow-up's really, really key. And a lot of people miss this. Like I had a client I worked with in the environmental space. It was interesting. They were selling courses on like how to improve the yields in your land and stuff like that. And it's quite a market for it, actually. Farmers and landowners who want to naturally improve their yields. And they were doing maybe like 10, 15K a webinar, but they weren't doing any follow-up sequences at all. Like it was just like, it was like over. That was it, And so we helped them install the follow-up sequence. They did like 70, I think it was 77,000 on their next one. And then they've done some that were over $100,000 per webinar campaign because they just had a more complete process in place, especially the follow-up. So that's really important.
What does it take to dial in your webinar? Because somebody can, I'm going to spend all this time on it and, I think it's perfect. And maybe it's a dud, right? I mean, you got to give it a few times to kind of find your voice and flow. Should they start with maybe a small ad spend, get a few people even on a webinar to kind of dial it in and practice? What does it take to know you got a good one?
As far as preparation, I mean, if you have your own audience, like your own lists or contacts, I would get them together for the first maybe few and test the software, test the presentation, get feedback, all those kind of things. And then you could go out to a little bit of ad spend or even some partners who are friendly to you and don't mind helping you get a few people to your webinars as well. So, I mean, those are the big things as far as practice. I mean, as far as dialing it in, I mean, it depends on the goal. If the goal is to sell a course or something like that, obviously you're looking at the ROI metrics first, like how much am I spending? How much am I getting back? What's my average revenue per lead that I'm generating? Those are the high level numbers. And if those are off, okay, then, what's my sign up rate, show up rate, conversion rate, follow up conversion rate? You're looking at the conversion metrics secondary, and, consumption metrics, are people dropping off? Are they vomiting when I say a certain thing at a certain point in the presentation? That's a little bit like deeper analysis, but I mean, overall it's looking at the numbers. If you have an application funnel or your goal is to book a call, how much are you spending versus making? Obviously that's first. And then, what are you spending to book a call? What's your close rate? All these kind of things you dig into a little more deeply for those kind of funnels.
But I mean, what's like realistic? Should you expect to give it, 3, 4, 5 times before you kind of dial it in and feel good about it?
I mean, that's very possible. Yeah. I mean, I've had most of the time things take some testing and work, right? I mean, occasionally you'll launch the first version and it works, or it's just a home run. But in most cases, there's a saying, how can I get to plan B faster? And so we want to get out and test, get feedback, iterate. But I mean, in most cases, like I've had some clients, unfortunately I had one guy who's like, he quit after the first one. Because I told him, I'm like, guys, if you test this with your audience, it's probably gonna be a pretty small show up rate and all that kind of stuff, but we can test it,
Right.
And he's like, well, there's, hardly anybody came. And I'm like, I told you. He's like, oh, this doesn't work. And I quit, and he just quit, and it's like, he did it one time. I told him what was going to happen. And he just, that was it. Webinars don't work. We all know people like that a little bit. They just, they don't have enough stick to itness, I guess, to keep going. But you're right. It takes some practice and time often.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, more than once I've thrown a party and nobody's come. So,
Yeah. Me too.
it's, are you
Yep.
willing to stick with it?
Most things in life don't work out. That's what I tell my clients. Most dates don't work out they don't end in marriage. Most business ideas suck. Most things you create won't work. You just have to be willing to you hit 3 out of 10 and you're a Hall of Famer in baseball, so you got to have that kind of mindset.
Yeah. I mean, same thing, quarterback, right? You can throw 3 incompletions. Well, it's 4th and 10. Well, okay. As long as you get 10 yards, you're a hero, right? You're moving the ball.
I think that's one of the huge characteristics of people that succeed is just they're persistent and they're okay failing and looking stupid and keeping going for a long time.
Right. I remember when I learned about comedians that like top name people. I mean, I think Jay Leno was talking about it, but like they'll go like unannounced. They'll just show up at like a local comedy shop.
Yeah.
And just do 10 minutes. And they're just testing like a handful of jokes.
Yep. Before they go big. Yep.
Yep. And, okay. People like that and like that. Okay. Hey, yeah, you have a great night. Make sure you tip your waiters, and they're out of there.
Yep.
I mean, they'll do it over and over and over again to build up their next thing. I was like,
they do that before they go to New York or LA or some big audience.
Yeah. I mean, a friend of mine owned a comedy shop here for years, and he did an open mic thing. We did I think it was 6 weeks. It was a 6-week class, something like that. And we had to do like a 6-minute stand up.
Mm-hmm. Ouch.
And dude, that was the hardest thing I've ever done from a speaking standpoint. I've done a TEDx talk. I've, spoken to 1,000 people, in Vegas. I mean, but I have an hour, right? Even TEDx, 18 minutes, it's tougher than an hour, right? You give me an hour, I can flap my gums like right now.
Yeah.
You got time to build up, you got time to fix a flub or whatever. But man, 6 minutes, you got to be dialed in, right? And he was talking about that. It's like, you don't want to just get right up first time with your set because you don't know, man. So be willing to test it a few times and even have somebody not show up or whatever. But
yes, sir.
So, I love what you said. Webinars are not events. They are campaigns. So where do you see people falling down in that? I mean, so let's assume, I imagine most, like they don't think of it as a campaign, so they fall. But then, all right, it's a process, blah, blah, blah. Is it, can I be okay on the webinar, but if I got great follow-up, great emails, maybe, great offer at the end, going once, going twice, like where would you say is like the pivotal piece in that campaign?
Yeah. So I would say there's three big components to get right. And if you're going to do this, the first one is your offer. I mean, no one gives a crap that they're in your webinar, right? They really don't. Maybe in the old days they were impressed. Oh, I'm on a video or whatever. Or I can hear him. That's amazing. These days they don't care. So, your offer needs to be good, and it has to have a strong message, a strong value proposition. It needs to be positioned well, risk reversal, all the old Jay Abraham stuff, that most people skip over these days. They just think, oh, I'll build a webinar and it'll work, and a lot of them haven't even validated their offer well or these kind of things. So I would say the biggest thing is, do you have an offer you've sold well before? I can't remember which one of my mentors said it, but he says, if you can't sell something on a Google document to people you talk to, you're not going to sell it well in a funnel, And so that's really key. It's having a strong offer. That's a big part of it. And then it's your presentation needs to be strong, and it needs to be on point and speak to the person that you are looking to attract. And I think a lot of us, and I get guilty of this as much as anybody, we get kind of double-minded as far as who we want to bring in, or, I kind of want this person, but also this person. And the key word is specificity, right? Like the more specific the message is and the presentation is and everything, the more success you're going to have. And then it's honestly the follow-up, man. It's like most people, if they can get their offer solid and dialed, if they have strong messaging and a strong presentation and a decent follow-up method, they're going to do the 80-20 rule is going to apply to that webinar. and they're going to have the most success that they can have with the people that register for the webinar.
Right. So do I need to tell them my rags to riches story and show them pictures of my babies and our trip to Disneyland? And
well, you might have to, just because you have 7 kids. They'd be like,
that
holy
could take
cow.
that could take 3 webinars just to get to the family. So,
All right, we're done, everybody. Here's my offer. I'll see you later. Yeah.
coming up on 6 hours here. We're going to have to wrap this up here in a little bit.
Yeah. There's not enough slides.
I saw so many go with that, rags to riches. Oh, here's my why.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm kissing the pregnant wife's belly. I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Are we past that yet? I think so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So as far as the question there, it depends a little bit. Like you want to empathize and create some rapport with people. I think if you're targeting businesses or higher end people that have more money than time, I would cut that out or minimize that a lot. You still want to show your authority, and people still need to know who you are and why they should listen to you and those kind of things. But as far as having a 20-minute drawn out story about everything you've done, and it's clearly planned these days, right? I mean, you and I can see it coming from a mile away. We're just like, blah, and then they keep repeating it over and over again. Now, if you're working in like a consumer market where they haven't been on as many webinars or something, you could probably have a little more of that, because it is important for them to kind of buy into you a little bit more. So as much as we all want to create cookie cutter, and I do have templates, and there's been a ton of webinar templates published out there. It does really depend a little bit on who you're trying to speak to. But overall, I'm not a huge fan of it myself. Right. But I also am in marketing, like you are, and we just have kind of seen it ad nauseum too much.
What about the big avalanche value stack close? Here's what you get. $27,000 worth of value. Only $27, but only for the first 27 people, but only for the next 27 seconds. I mean,
yeah, you've done that one before, haven't you?
That still work? Does that still work?
It could, if you're going to do it like that. That's pretty impressive. They might need to hire you for their closer on these things, huh?
All right, man.
I mean, yeah, having some value juxtaposition, in price juxtaposition is a principle, right, of selling, right? Like, I'm going to show you this price first, and then we're going to break it down from there. So is that going to increase your conversions if you're selling a course or a software program? It could. It very well could, and likely will. Do I love that kind of selling? Not necessarily. That's mainly why I don't do a lot of pitching on webinars and stuff like that for courses and stuff. Mine are mostly for booking a call for services and things like that. But having said that, I've consulted on a number of webinars that still do the course model and pitch the course like that. And as long as the benefits or the bonuses are really strong, and then, yeah, I would use it if you're going to do that kind of webinar.
Yeah, because I've seen people, it's the bonuses have to be priced more than, or valued at more than the course, right? I mean, to do it properly. Mm-hmm. And you gotta, but yeah, I don't like it either, but
it's not my favorite, but it does work if you're looking at that kind of funnel. It's not my favorite thing to do.
Right. I feel like, especially in business, I mean, people see it coming. But I mean, I'm like you. The one replay I have playing right now is just to book a call. It's like, and
I'm a simpleton. I tell all my clients that now. I used to try to build these survey funnels and all this elaborate stuff and try to sell these different offers. And for my own stuff, I'd rather just make more money with less, and just, that's just how I am anymore, Yeah.
Yeah. I'm same way, brother. Maybe we've been at it too long. I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing.
Burn out on doing the pony dance, huh? Yeah.
The pony dance. What do you mean?
Well, just the
dog and pony show,
or it goes away in 2 seconds.
Oh yeah,
that whole kind of influencer, the newbie market, I guess you'd call it. Like, here's the magic pill, guys, buy it. This will change your life.
I know, but people are still looking for it.
They're looking for it. And
they still look for that magic pill.
it'll always work in marketing. We just know that we've seen over the mountain, and it's like, there's so many things you need besides the pill here, you know?
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, sometimes I'm torn. I'm like, you know what? The old adage, sell them what they want and then give them what they need. I mean, should we be doing that more?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Are you selling a vitamin or a painkiller, right? That's another way of saying it. And, vitamins are harder to sell. They are. And I don't know. I struggle with that too sometimes. Like, how do I want to position myself and my philosophy, and how do I want to show up? With a lot of my people, I'm a little bit known more as a straight shooter. And I think the right people will appreciate that, particularly people that are successful, that have the money, and would pay me well to work with them. They often say that they appreciate that. Yeah. That I'm not just, bullshitting them.
Will the CEO of a big company register him or herself and attend a webinar? Will they have one of their executives do it? I mean, what's like in a B2B setting, right? What's realistic to expect?
Yeah, not as much. It's funny. I did have a client that did have this happen once. He did a paid webinar to his list, and there was a billionaire on there actually who was watching his webinar, who he actually had a conversation with. But, that's going to be a needle in a haystack kind of thing. So I look at it as a needle in a haystack a little bit. Like if you're targeting, B2B companies that have a headcount north of 500 or 1,000 or whatever, and you're going to try to use Facebook ads and stuff like that to get them to webinar, I would say you're finding a needle in a haystack a bit there. They are more on LinkedIn. And so I've seen a lot of people using LinkedIn, including myself. More recently, I've been more of a LinkedIn prospector.
You need a high-ticket closer, man. That's what you need. Hi, John. Thank you for accepting my connection request. I'm like-minded entrepreneur. Okay, anyway. What were you saying?
So anyway, so you can use some kind of webinar or video recording in that process if you want them to review some information before a call or before booking a call or something like that. Generally, you're going to have a tougher time with that type of person. Webinars, I think, are in the traditional sense are more of a one-to-many model, where especially like B2C or beginner B2B, that kind of thing. Or internally, if you have a big internal list that wants to hear from you, I think the tools are great for that. As far as like using them at scale to book a bunch of high-end CEOs on those kind of things, it's a needle in a haystack.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know I use like a throwaway email so I can get notifications, and I'll like sign up and watch. But I don't want them to know who I am because I don't want to get hounded. But because I tell my clients, in sales training, it's like all these people, they're still humans despite their titles.
Sure.
Right. I'm not knocking on 50, right? My classmates are turning 50 right now. And these guys I got friends in high places right now, man. I mean, some are generals in the Air Force. But man, behind closed doors, we are just smack talking, BSing just like we're 18. Right, playing fantasy football, just beating each other down. And, we have the same wants, fears, goals, desires, dreams, blah, blah, blah. We just, like you said, have more money than time. It's like, just cut to the chase. Don't BS me.
Yep.
I think we sometimes forget there's a human being on the other end of the screen.
Even at scale, that's just kind of why I got sick of selling courses and things like that to beginners. It just doesn't feel for me, and people can do whatever they want, but for me it just didn't feel like great anymore. So I agree. Like for the highest of the market, the best friends in the biggest places, get to the point, and shoot them straight. They'll appreciate that.
Yeah, cool, man. So where do we send them, huh? Where can they learn more if they want to be their own webinar experts? Do you have a website? Do you have resources for people that want to improve their webinar skills?
Sure. I mean, you can go to johnschumacher.com. That's John, Jon, no H. Parents forgot that. So Jon, and that's Schumacher, SCHUMACHER. I got a lot of free stuff and videos and all kinds of stuff there. If you want to reach out and talk with me about your webinar or your client acquisition kind of stuff, I'm happy to brainstorm some ideas and see if I can help you with that. That'll do it. Yeah.
And is that what you do now? Is it private coaching? Do you have a group? Is it somewhere all the above?
Yes, I have like consulting advisory work. I do one-to-one with certain people. We do have the ability to build stuff like an agency. I do have a course called Webinar Mastery Academy, and I've ran the Webinar Mastery Summit twice. I've had about 8,000 people go through that. So those are both recordings that are sold as courses for people that just want to consume those on their own. Those are on the website as well. But yeah, my primary focus is partnering and advising, people that have had a bit of success that want to add to that and grow using, webinars or other forms of digital acquisition to expand.
And because you're having a baby, the price is going up. So they need to hurry up and order now, because when the baby comes, there's nursery, there's child care, there's nannies, so order now, right?
That's right. Yep. Countdown timer's on.
Very nice. I like it. Well, cool, man. Thanks for making some time and allowing me time to drive home, because I messed up the schedule. But was it good for you? It was good for me. Was it good for you?
I think I'm ready to light a cigarette up. Yeah. It was that
good. Very nice. All right. John Schumacher, all the way from Reno. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been great.
Thanks, buddy.
It's rarely as easy as they make it sound. Amen. What is your ROAS? Return on ads spend. The money is in the follow-up. Another amen. You've got to build out whatever it is you're working on and assume the worst. I call it my kids doing their chores system of follow-up. I'm going to assume they have not done their chores until I see it. Kids, have you done the dishes? Have you done the dishes? Have you done the dishes? Yes, Dad, I did the dishes. I'm going to ask them multiple times. You have to assume that with your prospects. I have on my process before login, so another acronym or initials. So if you go to thesaleswhisperer.com/PBL, process before login. That's a free video and a PDF, and I go through that. When you send out, let's say you're going to do a webinar, and you have a list, and you send them an email. Most people just assume perfection. I'm going to send an email to 1,000 people. 1,000 people are going to register. They're going to show up, and they're going to buy. Yeah, good luck with that. You have to send the email, and then you have to assume they don't get the email. So you got to send it again. Then you got to assume that they get the email, they don't read it. So you send it again. Now they get the email and they read it, they don't click. So you send it again. They get it, they read it all the way through, they click, they get on the landing page, they don't register. Now you got to get them to register. Now you got to get them to show up. Now you got to get them to pay attention. Then you have to get them to stay till the end. Then you have to get them to buy. Then you have to get them to buy again. Then you have to get them to give you testimonials and referrals. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of forethought. But the cool thing is, if you can document this and get it in a process and even automate some of it, once you get it right, you can rinse, wash, and repeat. You're probably just doing this and you're winging it. You're sending emails when you remember. You're sending phone calls when you remember. You're dropping everything when the hot lead comes in, and you're frazzled. That's why I offer my IPA, thesaleswhisperer.com/IPA, Initial Process Assessment. Let me help you figure this out, help you pick the right tools, get you on the right path. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get more of what you got. All right. John lists a lot of things in here. I love it too. Most things in life don't work out. You're planning for perfection, and that's the struggle, right? You got to have a strong message. You got to have that risk reversal. Do you know what that is? What's a valid risk reversal for your industry? What's your validated offer? Like he says, if you can't sell something via a Google Doc to people you know well, you don't have a good offer. What is your offer? And then how are you following up? How many times? What medium? What are you doing to get their address, their cell phone number, find them on social media? Okay, and a real email address that they check. It's a lot of work. A lot of stuff going on. Let me help you. All right? Doing something a little different this time. Folks at Intercom that have been my sponsor, we're using a post roll. So check this out and then come back for the conclusion. Intercom wants more of the nice people visiting your website to give you money. So they took that little chat bubble in the corner of a website and packed it with automatic meeting booking, data capture on leads, conversational bots, and more. Intercom user Elegant Themes added Intercom to their site and now convert 25% of leads through live chat. Go to intercom.com/deals to jump on customer intent in the moment. Then see everything else Intercom can do. That's intercom.com/deals. All right, you have your deals. Check out Intercom. Check out thesaleswhisper.com/PBL. That's free. And check out thesaleswhisper.com/IPA, Initial Process Assessment. It is affordable, and it will have a huge ROI for your business. Go get you some of that. Now go sell something.